There's a whole other world of dragons out there. Unbelievable. What do you say? What should we name it? Itchy Armpit it is.
I bet you think you know a lot about dragons.
Should I know you?
No, but a mother never forgets. Every dragon has its secrets. I'll show them all to you.
Did you know about this?
That's your mother?
Now you know where I get my dramatic flair.
He likes you.
Wow.
Something is coming. Something you've never faced before.
What's down there?
I alone control the dragons. Drago Bloodfist is a madman.
I'll buddy his fist with my face if he tries to take my dragon.
Dad, there's something you need to know.
Oh boy.
I know what you're gonna say.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you. We're a team now. Now what do you want to do?
Drago's coming for our dragons. We have to stop him. Together. Don't worry, bud. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
You have the heart of a chief.
That's my boy!
And the soul of a dragon.
Ah, you know that doesn't wash out.
Cut them down!
Dragon Riders coming through. Heads up! We can't fly these things.
They're babies. They don't listen to anyone.
Take him down, babe!
Come on, bud. Hold on. Distract the alpha.
Have a nice flight.
Uh-oh. Baby!
Did you guys see that yet? How many people saw it? Okay. All these movies I've seen, I have not seen this one because I wanted to see the first one first, and I didn't see that one. So this is great. And that's going to become clear right now. You're going, well, how can you preach on it if you did not see it? Well, that's all going to become clear real quick. Real quick, we're glad you're here today. One person I forgot to mention that's also here too, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention, Paul Varian's back from Parts Unknown too. So those of you know. And frankly, Paul, I don't know what was more dangerous, where Linda is in Detroit or where you were. Okay, so Detroit? Yeah, Detroit, okay. So he is back, he's back with us, and we're so glad he's back safe and sound, and his family's happy. We're glad you're here for Summer Blockbusters, this series. This is a great series because, in a way, one of the ways that Jesus taught all the time was through parables. They were stories meant to evoke a reaction in you and meant to make you think about God and life and everything like that. And today, these days, movies are our parables. They're the modern-day parables of today. And so we know that you can learn things if you're looking for them with the right set of eyes. You know, those who have eyes, let them see, is something Jesus always said. So we want to, in this whole series of Summer Blockbusters, look at today's hottest movies and pull out the spiritual themes so that when you go to see them, you see God. And it's so amazing when you start to train yourself to see God in everything and around everything. And then all of a sudden, things that seem like they might be curses could become blessings. So we hope you're going to see all these movies. Maleficent was a good one. $1 Million Arm was one we did X-Men. You'll hear that one in a few weeks. And today, we're going to do How to Train Your Dragon 2 this morning, actually. And we're so glad that you're here for this one because this one's special to us. Something became clear to us not too long ago that a friend of ours had a story to tell that would really, really go with this movie and with the themes of this movie. And our friend has been a friend of this church since its very inception. From the very beginning of Crosswinds, this man has been here and been a part of it. And Ron's life, well, it's been a symbol of what God can do to each and every one of us. And Ron Cary has worked in guest services. He's been in leadership here at the church. He works with our youth tirelessly, day in and day out. He's one of the most amazing youth leaders, and you teens that are in here that know Ron know that. he came here today to share his story with us, his parable of his life, and how that tied in with the movie and everything. And so we're going to welcome Ron now, and he's going to come up and share his story. Love you.
Well, good morning. So a lot of you have seen this movie. I tell you what, it gave me a really great excuse to go watch an animated flick. At my age, to go in there by myself, people thinking, what's this old guy doing in here? Anyway, those who have or haven't seen the movie knows that it centers around Hiccup, who is a young Viking, and his father is the chief of a tribe on the island of Berk. Now, Hiccup's not so much an outcast, but the people of Berk aren't so sure that he's really fit material to succeed his father as the chief of the tribe. He's more of an explorer and an adventurer, and spends his days out riding his dragon, Toothless, and exploring new lands. And you saw in the trailer, he unfolded a map. He's making a map of all these lands that he sees. And the last thing he wants to do is to succeed his father as chief of the tribe and have any kind of responsibility of leading and protecting Berk. But as the story unfolds, there's a really dark and evil presence that's coming to destroy everything that Hiccup knows. It's then, as it goes on, that he realizes that he can't do this, he can't do it alone. He can no longer face the things coming at him by himself. And beyond that is the story of redemption and how he was redeemed. Now, first of all, what is redemption? Well, it's the act of making something better or more acceptable. The act of exchanging money or something for money, for an award, for merchandise, like the old S&H green stamps that people used to collect. In Christianity, it's the act of saving people from sin and evil, and the fact of being saved from sin and evil. Now, throughout history, there's been millions and millions and millions of people that God has redeemed. We're going to take a look at just a few of them real quick here. Well, come on now. We were going to. There we go. Who has God redeemed? First of all, there's Saul. Now, Saul did everything he could to stop the spread of Christianity. Later on, he became the Apostle Paul and wrote 14 of 27 books of the New Testament. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a corrupt tax collector in Jericho. He encountered Jesus Christ one day, and it changed his life forever. He repented and paid back all the money that he had cheated people out of. Then we have Matthew, who was originally known as Levi. Now, Matthew he bought his position as a tax collector for the Roman Empire, but he gave everything away to follow Jesus. We have the prodigal son, who was everything that he was given, he wasted away. He repented and came back home and was redeemed. And on this short list here, finally you have, well, me, a liar, a cheat, a thief, and a drug addict who finally accepted God's will over my own and was trying to become the man that God wants me to be. Now, brings me to today, which for me is kind of a miracle that I'm even standing here in front of you, or sitting now, but and I got to be honest with you, it's only through God's grace and the redemption through Jesus Christ that I am here today. I don't know what anybody else's circumstances are, but I can tell you that the choices I made had a lasting effect, not just on me, but everybody that was around me. My dad, God rest his soul, he was a functioning alcoholic. So that addictive personality gene was passed on down to me. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the struggles that I've had and what I had to do to overcome them. Now, for most of my adult life, going back to 1979, I was an active and functioning, or so I thought, functioning drug addict. I'd moved to Southern California from Virginia in 1975, following my girlfriend out after she had graduated from high school. In 1977, another bad choice I made caused a really bad breakup. After our breakup, I went to work for an electronics company out there, and I was making really good money as a salesman. Now, back then, it started it started pretty simply. I was just experimenting a little bit, not using a whole lot, but I realized that, it started to take a little bit more to get the same effect. And it still wasn't that big a deal because I was only using on weekends. Of course, I was drinking 7 nights a week. But eventually these weekends turned into 4 days, and then 5 days, until I was using every day, and every day over a 5-year period. And all this time, I thought I had it under control, that it wasn't a problem. Now, in this time frame, I had met someone else, and I got married, and my first 2 sons were born in 1981 and 1984. And I knew what I was doing was affecting the way I was providing for them and what kind of a father I was being, but I was still making enough money to put food on the table. I just wasn't making enough to support my habit and pay rent. So another choice was given to me. I could man up and be a dad, or I could continue using drugs and deny there was a problem. Well, after a few months, I was homeless with 2 kids. My in-laws at the time lived nearby, and they had a spare small bedroom that the 4 of us moved into. Now, the person I was married to at the time, I got to tell you, was also an addictive personality. Yeah, my mouth is so dry. Excuse me. So between the 2 of us, we really were a train wreck. And with all this going on, even in this small 1-bedroom, I never stopped using drugs. After about 6 months, I lost my first job because of my addiction, which I still wasn't calling it. Now, if you don't think Satan exists, he was sitting there on my shoulder telling me it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my problem. I was a victim of circumstances. As long as I accepted the fact, well, the facade that it was, that I was a victim, then it made denial really easy. Oh, bless you. Thank you, God. Thank you, appreciate it. I'm going to shake the water out of this cup. Anyway, I had a moment of clarity and decided to move my family 300 miles to the north to get a fresh start and get away from the people whose fault it was that I was using, because it wasn't mine. So I didn't know anybody up where I moved to, and it was a good place to start anew. I found a job, found an apartment, and again started providing food and shelter for my family. All the while patting myself on the back, saying what a good job I did, how I had pulled myself up out of this. God had provided this for me, given me the opportunity, and I ignored him. In my arrogance, I was too busy patting myself on the back. I was drug-free for about a year, maybe a little over. My 3rd son was born, and things were looking up. And so I was offered a little something to get high. And I thought, oh, why not? It's not like I'm an addict or anything. So I made another choice. Another 2 years of using daily. Son number 4 was born. Another downward spiral, another home lost. Well, for a while I was able to hide things from work. I borrowed money I had no intention of repaying and moved into another place across town, again, to get away from all those horrible people whose fault it was that I was using. And like Hiccup in the movie, I didn't want to be held responsible for either my actions or for those that were depending on me. So once again, in an area I was unfamiliar with, I was drug-free for a while, providing again for my family. The job I had led to a better job. It almost doubled my pay. And again, patting myself on the back. These opportunities God keeps throwing in front of me, and I keep ignoring him. So for 2 years, I was drug-free. Son number 5 was born. So I decided to party a little bit to congratulate myself on what a good job I was doing on providing for my family. Satan on my shoulder again, saying, not a problem. You can handle this, and I believed it. You ever heard the definition of insanity? It says doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, at that point in time, I hadn't heard it yet. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew what the right thing to do was. But as it says in James 4:17, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. Within 12 months, I was homeless for the third time, this time with 5 kids, living week to week in a series of motels, and ultimately losing my second job, not because of my addiction, but because my car wouldn't run anymore. But again, that wasn't my fault. I still wasn't accepting responsibility for what I was doing. I knew that my 5 kids deserved better, but I blamed all of it on being fired for no good reason. The darn job didn't pay enough for me to try to keep a roof over our heads and fix the car and still be able to party up. So I made a choice to screw the car and continue to party on. Now looking back, God had to be watching me, because there was no reason that I can think of that my kids weren't taken away from me, that I wasn't in jail, or worse off, dead. So, in another single moment of clarity, I called my then father-in-law to come up and help us get out of there, and he bought an old camper. Actually, he bought it and was going to give it to us, so he drove 300 miles up to pick us up. And we packed up in the middle of the night, still owing this motel money, and ran away back to Southern California. Well, I found work, moved into another apartment, and started the cycle again of providing, thinking that I had put the past away. Our 6th child was born. Finally had a little girl. We were scraping by, making ends meet. It was honest living. You know, it was tough, but it was honest. And then the monkey on my back woke up and reared its head. And as soon as I said yes to an offer to try a little something, the sleeping addict in me woke up and started eating away at me again, until I was homeless for the 4th time. This time with 6 kids living in a camper. A few months before this, friends of ours that we knew in the apartment that were really good people had moved out into the country and had some land and offered us a place to stay. So I still had the camper, and I found an old gutted trailer that had a bed and a bathroom in it and nothing more. And I pulled it out to the land and parked it next to an old small barn that was there on the property. No running water, minimal electricity, and still kept right on using drugs. 3 months after moving in there, we had a fire that destroyed everything that we had. Now, granted, because of the things that I had done, we didn't have much, but what we had was ours, and it was all gone. So this was 1994, and the previous 15 years had been spent as an addict, 10 of it using on a daily basis. I decided at that point in time I was going to get out of California, so I uprooted my entire family. We moved back to Virginia. So, you know, starting to see a pattern. God keeps supplying me with things, and I keep turning my back on him, thinking it's all me that's worked things out, and it happened again. I started working for Arlington County. It's just across the river from Washington, D.C., and it was a great job, great benefits. The kids were all in school, and they were all doing well for a couple of years. The thing about kids, they're really smart, they're really observant. You think you're hiding things from them, and so they don't know what's going on, but the fact of the matter is they do know. But you don't know they know, they just keep watching, and they start copying you. It took 2 years for drugs to become a part of my life on a daily basis. By the 3rd year, my oldest 2 had started experimenting. It brings us up to 1999, and it was time to run away again. This time, I came down here to Alabama. I went to work for an aerospace company. Again, God provided me opportunities and tools to get me out of this cycle, and again, it was all about me and what I had done. Still turning my back on God. And I have no doubt in my mind Satan planted those thoughts in my head. Now, by June of 2000, I bought my first house, bought a new car. The job was going well. Kids were doing well. 4 of them were playing sports. I was clean and feeling pretty good about how I had made things work, how I'd beaten the odds, still not acknowledging the fact that God keeps supplying me with these opportunities to me and the people that he brought back into my life. My best friend and her family that I'd known for 25 years lived nearby. Now, 2 years or so seems to be the magic time frame because that's about how long it took for me to start using again. I was spending money on drugs that should have been going towards the kids and towards the house. Now, my friend and her family were very supportive of me because I was blaming it all on the woman I was married to because she wasn't working and she was just being lazy. That part was true, but that was only a small truth. The real reason was we were using a lot. But it was a whole lot more convenient for me to blame somebody else. I knew it was hypocritical, but I had to deflect any kind of suspicion that they would have away from me. Now Matthew 7 says this about hypocrisy. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. I didn't have a log. I had a whole log jam in my eyes. I wasn't seeing a thing. I did come to my senses long enough to realize that my marriage had come down to me working for us to get high, and that was it. By the time I realized that, the only home I had ever bought was in foreclosure, and we separated. She and the 3 younger kids found a place to live with some friends from the church, and I was homeless for a 5th time, staying on any couch or bedroom that somebody might have to offer me for a week or a month or even a couple of days. Now, being separated, I didn't stop using as much. I only stopped spending as much because there was only one habit to support. And I was still functioning well enough to do my job. Well, my soon-to-be ex moved away and took the 2 youngest with her. Now, by this time, I was in a $300 a day habit, being fed by lying, cheating, and stealing. Lying to and stealing from the very people who had loved me and trusted me for 30 years. I was evicted again, my stuff put out on the front yard for everybody to see, and I was locked out. I was homeless for the 6th time. Shortly after that, at work, I got caught stealing and cashing checks from a coworker. The best job, career up to that point I ever had, and I threw it away. And I only quit using at that time because I got arrested for the checks. Now, I got out the same day, and I was scared enough to quit using for 30 days. And then the fool in me, in Proverbs it says, as a dog returns to a vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. This was 2007 now. I'd been homeless 6 times, lost 3 jobs, lost the respect of my kids, lost the trust of a family that I had known for 30 years. And I still didn't stop. The only thing that mattered to me at that point was just getting high. And then finally one night in August of 2007, I got down, it was an hours-long binge. I binged for hours, and I got down on my knees and I crying and asked God to just put me out of mine and everyone else's misery and take me while I slept. You know, I was alone and I was homeless and I didn't have anything left to give to anybody. Now that was the last night I used drugs, and so in a way, even though I was a little, in my own stupid thinking, a little upset with God that I woke up the next morning, my old life did kind of die that night. I figured God wasn't finished with me yet, so I've been trying to, ever since then, keep my heart open to what I'm supposed to do. God wants us to repent. In 2 Peter, he tells us this: the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Well, I stopped running away from God now and started accepting my responsibilities. Just as in the movie Hiccup, stopped running from and denying his responsibilities. And like him, I realized that I couldn't do it alone. The people I thought had abandoned me had always been there. It was me that turned my back on them. And I made a decision, if God put anything in front of me, I wasn't going to ignore it anymore. Now, it wasn't easy. I got to tell you, the cravings and temptations were still there. And being as weak as I am, I realized I did need some help and had to do some things. I stopped avoiding the areas I stopped even driving by the areas that I used to frequent. I started praying every morning just to get me through the day without drugs. Then I started praying, get me through the day, and please stop these cravings, because the cravings were still there. So I prayed this every day. And I would thank God every night, thank you for getting me through the day. Eventually, the cravings did go away. Now, as my head got clearer, my decision-making got a little bit better. People that used to avoid me started talking to me again, and they were actually talking nicely to me. Started rebuilding trust. It took a long time and a lot of work, but it makes you feel pretty good when people know they can rely on you. And when they ask you to do something, they trust you enough to know it'll get done. Now, one night I was watching the news with my girlfriend, and a story came on about a murder on the Limestone-Madison County border. The area looked mighty familiar to me, and then a picture of the house and the suspect popped up on the screen, and my heart stopped. My girlfriend asked me, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Or, "Have I seen a ghost?" And I thought, yeah, well, the ghost was me. This was the same house, the same person that I had been to see on numerous occasions. I had spent a lot of time and a lot of money there. I've changed jobs. I mean, I've been taken to the woodshed a couple of times by God, and I do thank him for what he's done to me and for me. I've changed jobs a couple of times, but it's been on my terms, along with help from the people that God has put in front of me. And as Michael said, I've been a youth leader and a member in one way or another of guest services since Crosswind started. On September 3rd of 2011, my girlfriend, my best friend, my high school sweetheart, she finally became my wife. And August 9th of this year will be 7 years drug-free. My kids call now just to talk, and actually I've started asking my advice on things. And that's a really good feeling for a father, to be able to recoup some of that, because for so many years, I know I was useless in their eyes. Now, none of us can change the past, and we can try to learn from it, and we aren't going to be able to change the world by ourselves, but we can make a choice to change ourselves. And it takes some work, but God's going to provide if you trust him. I ignored him for years. Discarded everything he was providing, turned my back on him. Maybe that was all part of his plan to shape me. I don't know, but I'm glad he was always there. I just never asked for his help. Now, in the movie, the people of Burke, they knew Hiccup just wasn't, or they thought at least, he just wasn't chief material, but when they saw that he would do anything he could to protect them from any form of threat, he was redeemed in their eyes. And he accepted that responsibility. Now, redemption's been given to all of us. God is infinitely patient, and he'll wait as long as it takes, but everything is done according to his schedule. You can't force it. I did learn I had to do my part, finally. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but you think about the army you have fighting with you. It may not be a dragon army, but the body of Christ is so much more powerful. I used to feel really silly when people would tell me to trust in God, or just to let go and to let God. I'm really not a control freak, but that seemed a little much even for me. But it's been a really amazing journey, and it is an amazing journey when you decide to make God a priority in your life. No matter what you do, God is always watching, and he's always there with you. That's promised in Joshua. This is my command: be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. God loved us so much, he gave up his son for us. And in Romans 5, God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Redemption and God's grace and mercy are here for each and every one of us to take. Amen.